There are stories that stay with us forever, stories that reach deep into our hearts because they are not just tales of courage, but proof that the human spirit can rise above impossible odds. Today, I want to take you on a journey, one that inspired millions around the world and became the foundation for the acclaimed film Hacksaw Ridge. But beyond the movie, behind the Hollywood lights and powerful performances, lies the real story of a man who defied every expectation, every label, and every limitation. This isn't just about war or heroism, it's about conviction, faith, and the price of staying true to what you believe, no matter the cost. Stay with me, because as you hear what this man endured and accomplished, you'll discover why his story is one of the most extraordinary ever told. His name was Desmond Doss. Born in 1919 in Lynchburg, Virginia, he was just a simple, quiet boy raised in a humble home during the Great Depression. But even as a child, Desmond carried something inside him that set him apart, an unshakable faith in God and an unmovable belief in the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill." That belief would one day place him in direct conflict with the world's deadliest war. As a boy, he witnessed the destructive power of violence up close. His father, a troubled man haunted by his own battles with alcohol and rage, once held a gun to his mother during an argument. Desmond, still just a child, wrestled the weapon away and vowed never again to touch a firearm. That moment planted a seed in his soul. If he was ever called to serve, he would serve as a healer, not a killer. Years later, when World War II erupted and America was plunged into one of the darkest chapters in history, Desmond faced an impossible choice. His country needed men to fight, but he could not abandon his faith. How could someone step onto the battlefield without a weapon? How could someone walk into hell with nothing but their bare hands and faith? Most would say it was suicide. Most would laugh. And many did. But Desmond didn't hesitate. He enlisted as a medic, determined to save lives rather than take them, and in doing so, he would face not only the enemy overseas but also ridicule, hatred, and violence from the very men who were supposed to be his brothers in arms. From the very beginning of his military journey, Desmond was treated as an outcast. Soldiers mocked him, calling him a coward, a liability, someone who would get them all killed. His refusal to carry a rifle made him a target of abuse. He was beaten, humiliated, and even threatened with court-martial. Imagine standing firm in your beliefs while the entire world seems to be against you. Imagine holding on to faith when you are completely alone. Most men would have broken under the pressure. Desmond didn't. With quiet strength, he endured every insult, every blow, every attempt to force him to compromise. He knew who he was, and he refused to let the hatred of others define him. Deep down, he held on to the promise that if God gave him the chance, he would prove that courage does not come from the barrel of a gun. That chance came on the cliffs of Okinawa, at a place the soldiers would come to know as Hacksaw Ridge. It was April 1945, one of the bloodiest battles of the Pacific. The ridge was a towering escarpment, sheer and unforgiving, where Japanese forces were deeply entrenched in tunnels and bunkers. Wave after wave of American soldiers were slaughtered in their attempts to take it. The battlefield was chaos, a nightmare of explosions, screams, and fire. Men were torn apart, wounded, left to die in no man's land. And in the middle of this inferno, one unarmed medic climbed the ridge, not to kill, but to save. As bullets ripped through the air and shells exploded around him, Desmond ran to the fallen. He dragged men to safety, carried them across the battlefield, lowered them down the cliff on ropes he had tied with his own hands. Hour after hour, through the night, he refused to stop. His body was battered, his hands torn, his strength nearly gone. But each time he prayed, "Lord, please help me get one more. One more life. One more soul to save." And one by one, he pulled them from the jaws of death. 75 men. 75 lives saved by one man without a weapon. By the time the sun rose, Desmond Doss had done the impossible. The men who once mocked him now looked at him with awe. Their coward had become their savior. For his actions, Desmond became the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor, the highest recognition for valor in the United States military. President Harry Truman himself said he considered it an honor to present the medal to such a man. But Desmond never saw himself as a hero. He was simply a man of faith who refused to compromise what he believed, no matter the cost. His story is a reminder that true courage isn't about how much power you wield, but about how much faith you carry when the world tells you to surrender it. It's about standing firm when it would be easier to give in. It's about saving lives when others only see destruction. Desmond Doss showed us that one man's conviction can change everything. And his legacy continues to inspire generations to rise above fear, to believe in something greater, and to never underestimate the power of holding true to what you know is right. There is something profoundly moving about the story of Desmond Doss. Beyond the battlefield, beyond the horror of war, his journey teaches us about the weight of conviction and the strength it takes to remain true to our principles even when the entire world is pushing us to break them. In our own lives, we may not be standing on a ridge with bullets flying overhead, but we often face invisible battles that test our faith, our resilience, and our character. It could be pressure at work to compromise our values, the temptation to take shortcuts when no one is watching, or the loneliness that comes from being misunderstood because we chose a path that doesn't align with what everyone else expects. Desmond's story reminds us that real courage isn't always about grand gestures. It's about those quiet, daily choices where we decide to stay true to who we are, no matter how difficult that choice may be. Think about the ridicule Desmond faced from his fellow soldiers, the names they called him, the punches, the humiliation. He could have given in, carried a rifle, and silenced their criticism. But he understood something we often forget: validation from others is fleeting, but integrity lasts forever. In our daily lives, it's easy to bend under the weight of other people's opinions. Social media amplifies judgment, workplaces reward conformity, and even family can unintentionally pressure us to abandon our path. But Desmond teaches us that sometimes standing alone is the most powerful stance of all. When you refuse to compromise your values, you plant a seed, not only in yourself but in others, showing them that it is possible to live authentically, even in a world that demands you conform. And then there is the battlefield at Hacksaw Ridge, a place of unimaginable terror where Desmond's true purpose came to light. His prayer, "Lord, help me get one more," is not just a cry of desperation but a mindset we can carry into our own struggles. What if, in our daily challenges, we approached life with that same resolve? One more act of kindness. One more word of encouragement. One more step toward a dream, even when it feels impossible. We often become paralyzed by the enormity of our goals or the weight of our struggles, but Desmond's example shows us the power of focusing on just one more step, one more action. Over time, those small, consistent choices lead to extraordinary results, whether in saving lives, building dreams, or simply spreading hope in a weary world. Another lesson his life gives us is that true impact does not require force or violence. In a culture where power is often measured by dominance, control, or wealth, Desmond's quiet defiance reminds us that gentleness, humility, and compassion can be just as transformative, sometimes even more so. He did not fight with weapons, he fought with selflessness and faith. And isn't that the kind of power we need more of today? The courage to listen instead of shout, to heal instead of harm, to love instead of hate. Each of us has the ability to influence others not by overpowering them, but by embodying values that uplift and restore. Desmond Doss's life shows us that the greatest victories are not won on battlefields of destruction but in the everyday choices to stand for what is right and to care for others above ourselves. So as we close this reflection, I want to thank you for staying with me through this powerful story. Desmond's journey is not just a historical account, it is a call to each of us to live with courage, compassion, and conviction in our own lives. If his story touched you, if it made you pause and reflect on your own battles, then let it also move you to action. Carry his lessons into your daily life, and share them with others who need encouragement. And before you go, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, leave a comment about what inspired you most, and share this video with friends and family. Together, we can spread stories that uplift, challenge, and remind us of the power of the human spirit. Thank you for being here, your presence matters, and your journey continues.